Hello students, today we'll be looking at the part 3 animal cell culture and applications. I am sure that you would have gone through part 1 and part 2 and found it very useful. So let's go to today's video lesson. So the key parts that we will be looking at today will be equipments which will be used in animal cell culture, characterization of animal cell lines, karyotype, storage and revival of cells, methods of gene delivery into animal cells, and scale up of animal cell culture. Coming to the first part, equipments used in animal cell culture. There are many equipments that are used in animal cell culture, which includes tissue culture hood, LAF, there is centrifuge, there is inverted microscope, there is carbon dioxide incubator. So let's look at it one by one. Coming to the first one, tissue culture hood. Tissue culture hood is used to grow cultures aseptically, which will be free from bacteria and fungus. It has got two functions. One, it protects the culture from the operator, and it protects the operator from the tissue culture. The second one is more, this condition holds true when you are, culturing the virulent strains of bacteria or virus. There are three types of safety cabinets, type 1, type 2 and type 3. Each one is specific for the nature of the cell or tissue that you are handling. LAF has got HEPA filter, high efficiency particulate air filter that removes particulates from the air. It also has UV light source which is got germicidal properties, and it sterilizes the hood before the use. Coming to the carbon dioxide incubator. It is used to reproduce the same environmental conditions of the living cells in vivo. The functions include, it maintains the sterility of the chamber, it maintains the constant temperature, it gives an atmosphere with a fixed level of carbon dioxide, because even in our body it's always a mixture of air. It's never pure oxygen mixed with carbon dioxide. So usually 5 to 10 carbon dioxide air mixture is used, and there is high relative humidity. So a pan of water is kept to maintain the relative humidity and to prevent the desiccation of the medium and maintain osmolality. Coming to centrifuge. Centrifuge is an equipment which works based on varying density. The more dense ones will be settled at the bottom, less dense ones will remain at the top. So there will be separation of different bands of cells based on this varying density. Usually we use a low temperature centrifuge in order to protect the integrity of the cells. Coming to inverted microscope, which is very important because only in animal cell culture we use inverted microscope. This allows the cells at the bottom to be visualized because it's the optical system is at the top with a light sources at the top, and all the lenses etc. will be at the bottom. It is exactly reverse to the ordinary compound microscope, where the light source is at the bottom and you have all the lenses or the optical system at the top. So this helps to get the immediate idea of health and growth of the cells, because cells adhere to the bottom of the cells, so that is why inverted microscope is very important. Coming to the characterization of cell lines, every cell line has got a particular growth curve, how it grows. So they go through three phases: lag phase, log or exponential phase, and plateau phase. In the lag phase, growth is very less because cells are getting acclimatized to the new environment. Log phase, the growth is maximum because here the growth is happening in an exponential manner because the nutrients are at optimal. Every condition is optimal here. Once the nutrients start getting exhausted, it enters the plateau phase. So this growth curve is very important, and it helps us to increase the cell number. When it is increasing, we can study what is the effect of hormones or growth factors in a particular cell type. So when you are administering neural growth factor in a neuronal cell line, we can understand that the cell lines will be growing much more. So what is that increase in cell number based on a particular concentration of a growth factor or hormone? We can study that. Even cell culture doubling time, it helps us to predict what will be the cell concentration at a particular period of time. So when we start culturing now, And after 4 hours, what will be the cell concentration? After 8 hours, what will be the cell concentration? So we can literally predict the cell concentration. So here in the picture, you can see the growth curve. There is lag phase, there is log phase, and the plateau phase. There are many laboratories which maintain the cell lines. ATCC, American Type Culture Collection, Virginia, USA. What is the advantage of using the established cell line? It's convenient for the scientist, to use these cell lines, as the growth characteristics, media requirements, and responses to selected reagents are all established. So you don't have to literally work out all these parameters once again. So all we can do is, if you are interested in a particular cell line, we can approach those culture cell line maintenance centers and request them for a cell line. So they will be giving us a cell line with all the instructions for the growing up of the cell line. But the precautions are there, because it's very important to check what is the species of origin, what is the tissue of origin, and maintenance of the specific properties before using the cell lines. Coming to the karyotype, karyotype is to be determined for each cell line to find the species of origin and to find the gross chromosomal changes for those cells karyotype, because when cells get transformed, their karyotyping changes, and it's very important to check this chromosomal changes. Stability of the karyotype depends on 4 factors. 1, from which species it is derived, what are the growth conditions of the cells, how we are doing the subculturing, and how periodically we are doing, what is the frequency, etc., and whether the cells are frozen or not. Coming to the storage and revival of cells, usually storage is done in liquid nitrogen at minus 180 degrees Celsius. That is a very low temperature. But then when you are freezing it at such low temperatures, it is very harmful because of the effects of the ice crystals. There is alterations in the electrolyte concentrations. There could be dehydration, there could be changes in pH, etc. So usually, in order to prevent it, we use cryoprotective agents like glycerol or DMSO. DMSO is dimethyl sulfoxide, and the medium usually have 10% DMSO and 90% serum. Usually cells are in the log phase, and we usually take cells in the log phase because there it grows in exponential manner, and we replace the medium that was existent 24 hours before freezing. So the lag phase will be over and cells will all be in the log phase. Then cells are slowly cooled to minus 80 degrees Celsius before you take it to very low temperatures, because water gently move out of the cells before it gets freeze. Coming to the revival of the cells, thawing is used to revive cells. So you place the cells in a vial and we place them at minus what it was at a minus degree Celsius. It slowly comes down to 37 degrees Celsius in a water bath with moderate shaking. And after thawing, cells can be directly transferred to tissue culture vessels containing medium. You can use it for culturing. Coming to our next very important topic, methods of gene delivery into cells. There are various methods like calcium phosphate, liposuction, microinjection, electroporation, etc. Let's see one by one. First one is calcium phosphate. Here what we do, we make a complex using calcium phosphate and DNA. So if there is a layer of DNA which is shown in, you can see the picture, the orange colored one is the DNA. If it is calcium phosphate, you have the DNA layer, then again calcium phosphate, then again you have the DNA layer. So you make a mixture basically. Then what happens? You transfect the cells. So this is taken up by endocytosis inside the animal cells, and you have the entry of the DNA. Second one is liposuction. Here, whatever DNA you want to send it to the animal cells, it is mixed with the liposuction agent which has phospholipids. And as you know, animal cells are made up of phospholipids too. So the transfection agents, phospholipids can fuse with the animal cell membrane, and it releases the DNA into the cytoplasm. Coming to microinjection, here We hold the cells using a pipette and using a syringe, micro syringe with a fine capillary tube, inject the DNA into the nucleus. And usually these procedures are done under microscope. Next technique is electroporation. The term itself says that using electric pulses we are trying to create the transient pores. That is why the name electroporation. Here cells are mixed with DNA and it is placed in a small chamber with electrodes which is connected to the power supply. A brief electric pulse is applied. So before pulse the cell membrane is perfect, it is complete. And then when you are applying the electric pulses, a small transient pores are applied at many places and through which the DNA pass. And after the pulse again the membrane is sealed. So these are the 4 methods which are commonly used to introduce the animal DNA into the cells. Coming to the scale up of animal culture process, usually we use 2 types of vessels. One is roller bottles and spinner flask. Roller bottles are used for adherent cells. Spinner flasks are used for suspension cultures. And in the roller bottles we also have microcarrier beads which enhance the cell concentration. So let's look at the roller bottle. The picture is given here. So cells adhere to the total curved surface of microcarrier beads. Microcarrier beads picture is also given at the bottom. So this microcarrier bead, since it is spherical, it has got maximum surface area, and the adherent cells they stick to this total surface area. And these roller bottles are placed inside the carbon dioxide incubator, which also has attachments to rotate these bottles. So as the bottles are rotated, this medium flows over the every monolayer that is present in the microcarrier beads. The advantage of this type of method is that we don't need a lot of medium because it is in rotation. It keeps on getting exposed to the cells. Microcarrier beads usually are made up of dextrin or glass based, and they increase the number of the adherent cells per flask. And surface area is also large because it's spherical, and it provides 0.24 meter square for every 100 ml of culture flask. Coming to the spinner cultures, it is used as I mentioned earlier for the production of the suspension cells. It consists of a flat surface glass flask with in center there is a Teflon paddle or a stirrer which agitates the media when placed on a magnetic stirrer. So because it is stirring, the cells do not get settled at the bottom, which is very important. It prevents the crowding. And spinner cultures have got 2 side arms for sampling. So in order to pour the medium in or take the samples out, side arms are used. And even stirring improves the gas exchange. So there is a good aeration which is happening. So that was about the scaling up of which included the roller bottle with microcarrier beads and the spinner cultures. So that's for part 3 video lesson. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have enjoyed it.